operation. In this film, we'll reveal the methods of one of the most elusive of all criminals, the bunco artist. He takes your money by deceit. Unlike the burglar and the armed bandit, the bunco artist usually induces the victim to become an eager, if unwitting, accomplice. In order to be on guard against the bunco artist, we must expose not only the swindler's tricks, but we must be honestly aware of our own susceptibility to them. All of us must work together to prevent this type of crime.
This couple could well be a sales manager and his secretary preparing a legitimate sales campaign. There is nothing sinister or threatening about telephone books and street maps. They help salesmen reach likely purchasers of useful articles and services. Or they may be used by professional criminals like this bunco team who systematically and efficiently defraud senior citizens of their life savings. For the bunco artist, as for the honest businessman, the fewer wasted efforts, the bigger the profit. Most bunco schemes are divided into 4 phases. Phase 1, the victim is selected. Phase 2, it is determined if he has enough money to make the effort worthwhile. Phase 3, the victim is persuaded to get the cash into his own hands. And Phase 4, the money is taken away from him. Experience and planning are all on the side of the bunco artist. He sets up the rules of the game. The victim never knows he's playing a game until he has lost. In this bank examiner bunco, high priority is given to women with time-honored first names like Matilda, Minnie, Ophelia, and Maud. The odds favor that they will be of an older generation and living alone. This pin marks the location of the bunco artist's apartment, their center of operations. Addresses of potential victims will be checked against the map. Only those living within the target area will qualify. When completed, the map will show the location of victims' homes and the various neighborhood banks in which they have their accounts.
I have all the bank locations marked. You found the prospects?
Mrs. Cora V. Madison, 844 Cypress Drive.
Cypress Drive. Good. She's only 8 blocks from our apartment. Any others?
Ophelia Dinsmore, 3214 Logan Avenue.
Too far away. Scratch Ophelia. Next.
Viola Dahl, 2837 Hadley.
The fraudulent operator has an added incentive for efficiency. The quicker he can choose his victims, take their money, and move on, the better his chances of escaping arrest. A long list of prospects has been completed. Now, the bunco artists enter Phase 1 of their operation, selecting the victim.
May I speak to Mrs. Matilda Johnson, please? Mrs. Johnson, I'm Mrs. Winthrop at the Guardian National Bank. I'm calling in regard to one of your checks. It's been returned for insufficient funds. Oh, you have a son. Sorry, you're the wrong Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Emma D. Hastings.
But I don't have a checking account at Guardian National.
You don't? Then you have a savings account.
Yes, I do. But not at your bank.
Well, that's certainly... Mrs. Hastings, I'll have to recheck our records. Oh, to help trace the discrepancy, where do you bank?
The Surety Bank on Colorado.
Well, I'll turn this information over to Mr. Critchfield, our assistant manager. You'll probably hear from him or your own bank a little later. Thank you so much for your cooperation, Mrs. Hastings.
This new arrival is the only member of the Bunco gang that the victims will ever see. This is the bag man to whom they will cheerfully hand over their money. Now the Bunco operation enters phase 2. Find out if the potential victim has enough money to make the effort worthwhile.
Mrs. Hastings? Mrs. Hastings, this is Mr. Buskirk. I'm Vice President in charge of procedures at Surety Bank. I understand that you had a call from Guardian National regarding a check.
They certainly have their nerve saying I wrote a bad check.
I can understand how you feel, Mrs. Hastings, and that's why I'm calling you to apologize. Now, actually, the other bank wasn't to blame. One of our tellers... Mrs. Hastings, this is a very delicate matter, but I'm sure that I can trust you to keep it in the strictest confidence.
Yes, of course.
Fine. I can't tell you how shocked I was to learn that one of our own employees was tampering with our records, manipulating depositors' accounts and forging checks. Now, to be sure that your account is in order, would you mind telling me what your passbook number is?
It's right here, Mr. Buskirk. 420-673.
420-673. Mrs. Emma D. Hastings. Correct. And now your bank balance?
$14,312.34.
$14,312.34. Well, that's fine. That check's right to the penny. Well, I'm happy to say that your account was not tampered with, and I'm going to make certain that it won't be. That is, if I can rely on your help. Now, we know who the guilty person is, but we need proof. Now, the FBI recommends that we ask the cooperation of one of our trusted depositors. Now, there's no danger involved, but the FBI and the bank would naturally be very grateful to you. And let me assure you, you'll be very well compensated for any time and trouble that you take. Now, can I count on you?
Yes.
I thought so. Now, here's all you have to do. Now, please listen carefully and try to remember every word I'm saying. Leave your house at exactly 2:15. Go to your bank and immediately proceed to the most convenient teller's window. We don't know who else in the bank may be involved in this embezzlement scheme, so don't say a word to anyone. Withdraw exactly $14,000. Leave the remaining $312.34 in your account. Have the teller put the bills in a separate envelope. You will return immediately to your home. Remember, say nothing to anyone. You will be met by Special Agent Curtis of the FBI, who will show you his identification. He will pick up the money and take it to the FBI laboratory. There it will be treated with a chemical visible only under ultraviolet light. The money will be returned for you to redeposit in your account. Because of the chemical, it can then be traced and the guilty employee apprehended.
Here's a receipt for the $14,000, Mrs. Hastings. On behalf of the chief, thank you. You know, our job would be more rewarding if there were more citizens like you.
Most salesmen who come to your door offer legitimate products and services. On the other hand...
Now, Mrs. Brown, you're probably wondering how my company can afford to put this brand new encyclopedia in your home absolutely free. Well, believe me, it's strictly business thing. Now, we all know that every community has its natural leader, its pace setters. You're familiar with these motivation and research surveys? Well, my company has made a survey of the better class areas in several key cities. And when the results were run through our computers, we came up with a list of people whose friends and neighbors regarded them as pace setters in their community. Mrs. Brown, you were on that list.
Really? Well, I had no idea.
It means your taste and judgment in what you wear, what you buy, are a strong influence on your friends. And that is why we've chosen your home as our demonstration home for this brand new encyclopedia. Now, isn't that a handsome addition?
Well, it is nice, but
Mrs. Brown, We know what will happen when your neighbors come into your home and see your new books. When they see your children getting better grades in school, even enjoying their homework. Well, it'll just make my job a lot easier when we launch our sales campaign later in the year. Now, as an added bonus for permitting us to put our encyclopedia in your home, our company is offering a generous referral plan. Could you use a little extra spending money?
Well, I suppose anybody could.
Of course. So for every name you give us that results in a sale of an encyclopedia, we're going to give you a commission of $25 in cash. Your okay here is all that's required to entitle you to those commissions. Also, it authorizes us to photograph you and your family in your beautiful home enjoying your new encyclopedia for our advertising in national magazines.
Well, I can hardly wait to tell my husband.
How could you do a thing like this? Don't you read anything before you sign it? Don't you think? Honey, I'm sorry I blew my stack. It's not your fault. It's this. Will you let me explain what we got ourselves into? Well, in the first place, there's nothing written in here that says you get $25 for referrals or leads.
But the man said that...
I don't care what he said. We can't hold him for oral promises, but we can be held for this. What you actually signed is a sales agreement, binding us to a long-term installment contract with maximum interest. We could have bought 2 sets of books for this price.
How could I have been so stupid?
Oh, honey, you're not stupid. That salesman just got you concentrating on free encyclopedias and on being a
pace setter in my community.
Uh-huh.
Next time,
Next time you ask him just to leave a copy of the agreement, and we'll go over it together. If he's on the level, he won't object.
Stephen, you're so smart.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, I am. Ever since I signed up for that free exercise machine a couple of years ago.
Property owners are naturally eager to save money on home improvements. Some, however, are too eager.
Nice looking place you got here, mister. Must take a lot of work.
That roof, though. Use some waterproofing for the rainy season.
That's a long time off.
Of course, you'll last to do it now. We got the equipment and the know-how. When we're done, you'll have a roof good as new. All for $100. What's the catch? There's no catch. And we just finished a big job here in the neighborhood. Contractor had some top-grade material left over. You know what I mean?
That 100 include labor?
It's all labor. Well, it's like this. I mean, driving by, we seen your roof. Well, we figured we could make a few bucks, do you a favor, and let our boss sort of donate the materials. Get the picture?
Okay.
Get to work. Where's the rest of it?
Well, that's what you asked for, $100.
You trying to pull a fast one, Buster? We said 400.
That's right, 400.
Well, you said... Now, look, you can't put anything over on me.
Just come up with the other 300 or you're in big trouble.
If that's a threat, I'll have the police here so fast it'll make your head swim.
You do that. Call the cops. Tell them you made a deal to fix your roof with stolen materials. Hey, go ahead. But your neighbors know what kind of a fink they got living next door to them. And get up the other 300.
You don't think I keep that much money around the house? I'll have to go to the bank.
We'll go with you.
Of course, there never was a big job with leftover materials. Just two bunco men with a smooth line, a rented truck, and a few gallons of cheap, low-grade oil. The pigeon drop is one of the most notorious of Bunco's schemes. It has many variations and, although often exposed, continues to flourish.
Pardon me, dear. I've been admiring your hat. It's so becoming.
Thank you. Oh, I've had it for several years, but I'm delighted that you like it. It's actually a favorite of mine. This neighborhood has changed so much in the last few years.
Oh, I was thinking the very same thing when I was in the bank depositing my insurance check. You see, dear, one never knows.
I beg your pardon?
I mean the uncertainty of things. You see, Fred took out this policy in the best of health. 2 months later...
My husband passed away 9 years ago. He didn't leave much insurance, but I managed with what we saved over the years.
Excuse me. You ladies know how long since the last bus passed?
No. And then I get these pains all across here. The doctor says it's nothing to worry about, but sometimes in the night...
Look-a-here. One of you ladies dropped this? I found it under the bench. Ain't no name on it. Maybe it says inside who it belongs to. Look at that. Oh. Must be $1 million here. And look, that's just a whole lot of scribbling.
And some figuring. Numbers adding up to $30,000. These are bookmaking slips. Do you know what you found? $30,000 in gambling money.
Think of that. Some old gamblers got all that money, and honest poor folks don't hardly have any.
Well, the gambler hasn't got it now, and he won't dare advertise for it or report his loss to the police. Gambling is illegal.
That's right.
And to think it was lying under the bench all the time. Why, I could have found it, or you could have found it.
You fixing to tell the police about this money, and then they're going to confiscate it, and you'll get a reward and I'll get nothing. Unless I was to divide this money amongst the three of us, $10,000 apiece, and then I'd bet nobody'd go loud-mouthing to the police.
That's very generous of you, and I'm sure the three of us could put it to better use than the police or that crooked old gambler. Don't you think so, dear?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Now, just a minute. Just a minute. How do I know that y'all would share the $30,000 with me if it was you found it first?
Well, I can assure you that I certainly would, wouldn't you, dear?
Yes, I would. I'd share.
Talk is easy. But before I divide up all this money, I got to have some evidence of good faith. Show me your good faith.
Well, I assure you, I come from a family of means. I know how to handle money. And I'm sure you do, don't you, dear? You're dealing with responsible and reliable people.
All talk. But I'll show you how you can prove you got good faith. You got money in the bank?
Yes, I have.
Which bank?
In the Reliable Trust.
That's my bank, too.
Okay. Now, both of you, brought your money, and let me see it. Let me hold it right here in my hand.
All right. Let's go to the bank, dear, huh?
In the pigeon drop bunco, the victim is swept along with the expectancy of receiving a large amount of money. The lure of something for nothing has temporarily lulled her judgment and her common sense. In this version, the victim's conscience is given a sleeping pill by offering her this tempting rationalization. The supposedly found money belonged to a gambler, someone outside the law. Like most confidence games, the pigeon drop succeeds not because of the stupidity of the victim and the intelligence of the swindler, but because of a human trait possessed by both, greed.
There's $10,000 there. You can count it if you want to.
Oh, no need of that, lady. Now, this is what I call good faith. It's your turn now, honey.
I'll go with you, dear, because I want to redeposit this right away. Believe you me, you never can tell what happens on the street these days. See you in a while. Put it in here, dear. It'll be safer.
Oh,
that's
cute.
Much better. There you are, dear.
It's nearly $9,000.
You sure got good faith, too, honey.
Oh, powder on that pretty suit. There, that's right, dear.
Now, honey, you just take this money right on back in the bank. Then we gonna divvy up this $30,000.
By the time the victim discovers his loss, the bunco expert has usually fled to enjoy the proceeds of his crime. Even when the criminal is arrested, prosecution is often difficult. In cases where the bunco artist is convicted and sent to prison, only rarely does the victim recover his money. So how could our 4 bunco victims have prevented being defrauded? Well, let's give them something they would never have in real life: a second chance. Emma Hastings has just received a phone call from a man claiming to be an official at her bank and asking questions about her account.
No, Mrs. Hastings, there's no such person at the bank, and you did the right thing in calling us. No legitimate bank official would advise a depositor to make such a large withdrawal of cash for any purpose. I suggest you keep yourself available, and I'll personally report this matter to the police.
Again, the salesman persistently presses her to sign a document he claims is only a formality.
Could you leave this agreement here so my husband and I could go over it together?
The homeowner is offered a chance to save money by using materials left over from a big job in the neighborhood.
Well, mister, that's an interesting proposition. Give me a minute to talk it over with my wife. Operator, this is an emergency. Please connect me with the sheriff's office.
You should be suspicious of any suggestion that you draw cash out of your account for any purpose. This procedure is simple and safe and effective. Well, they're still out there. The bunco artists, the sharp operators looking for victims and finding them. Remember, honest merchants and legitimate salesmen invite you to investigate before you buy and before you sign an agreement. But the bunco artists, unfortunately, won't be discouraged. They know they'll find plenty of their favorite victims, those of us who believe we can get something for nothing. And those of us who say, I'd never fall for that kind of racket. I'm too smart. Ha!